Shadow. In between advancement of the Joyce storyline, Buffy fights a giant snake.
Again, we open with Joyce entering an MRI scanner, justifiably very nervous, while Buffy and Dawn wait outside.
Is that the same as a CAT scanner?
No.
Because they said it was a CAT scan.
You can't get a CAT scan in an MRI machine.
So it's not a CAT scan in this show, but they said it was? So Buffy doesn't know what she's talking about?
None of them know what they're talking about.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we have you here for your medical expertise. At the magic shop, Giles shows Tara an ad that he took out in the phone book. For our younger viewers, a phone book is what we had before Facebook. And for our even younger viewers, Facebook is what we had before TikTok. And for our viewers in the future, TikTok is what we had before humans were exterminated by robots.
But something that was and always will be eternal is ads. There were ads everywhere. And sometimes they were on paper, which was made from trees.
And sometimes they were in the middle of a sentence in a video. Xander, Willow, and Anya come in, and Xander very annoyingly talks about how Riley blew up the vampire-infested crypt last episode by himself instead of waiting for them. But do grenades kill vampires? Because they don't make fire, and they're not made out of wood, and I don't think it was a holy grenade.
So, if they're in pieces parts, can they reassemble themselves, or does each part act individually?
Yeah, some good questions, or some dumb questions, but questions regardless.
They're all still looking for the red dress woman who is chillin' and being given a spell by a demon. And even though that guy had all that makeup on, I immediately knew which actor it was.
Okay, who is it?
I didn't know his name, but I recognized him.
Do you know from what?
90s stuff.
Okay. He addresses the woman as Glorificus, but she tells him to shorten it to Glory. And she says she needs to get supplies and tears out the magic shop's ad from the phone book.
So she was legit looking in a phone book, looking in the yellow pages for where to find magic stuff, and she just happened upon that ad?
It was a pretty big ad. How many ads for magic shops are there going to be in the phone book?
Why would there be any ads? Why would there be any listings for magic in the phone book?
Because Giles specifically paid them money to put it in there.
But why would somebody go in the phone book and flip looking for magic? That's what I'm asking.
Because she needed to find supplies for her spell. Remember, this is a world where magic does exist. Maybe it's, it's different.
All right. I don't buy it, but okay.
I don't either, but anyway. Riley finds the front door to the Summers house open and checks things out. And he finds Spike smelling Buffy's clothes because he somehow didn't hear Riley calling for Buffy.
Buffy?
And Spike makes Riley feel like an inadequate sap by telling him that he's not Buffy's type.
And that she prefers guys like Spike. And he tells Riley that Buffy's at the hospital with Joyce, and Riley's upset because she didn't tell him that's where she was going. And he says that he and Buffy went out for drinks the night before. And even though Riley's upset at Spike and has no reason not to kill him, he gives him his blanket when he sends him outside, into the sunlight.
At the hospital, Joyce says they found something in her head, and they want to operate to find out more.
At the magic shop, Giles checks out another one of those awkwardly unspeaking customers.
And the gang, still researching about Glory, can't find anything, and they suspect that she may be so old that she predates language.
They immediately conclude that that must be true, and Giles says she could be anywhere. And a customer comes up behind him, and surprise, it's Glory. But she actually has dialogue, which should have set off alarm bells compared to all the other customers.
She buys some stuff, and then leaves, leaving the gang in the dark.
Giles still says the demon woman could be anywhere, and it was all shot like it was supposed to be funny, but it wasn't.
I must have missed that part. I was rolling around on the ground. I was laughing so hard.
At the hospital, the doctor tells Buffy that Joyce has a brain tumor, and that she may start presenting a variety of symptoms.
They still don't know if the tumor is operable, and even so, the doctor says she has a 1 in 3 chance of being okay.
He asks Buffy a bunch of questions, ignoring her discomfort, until Nurse Ben comes over and calls the doctor away. He tries to console Buffy and tell her not to worry about it, and it was supposed to seem helpful, but he didn't say anything of substance, and then he leaves.
And since this was the first time that he and Riley were in the same room, I expected them to interact and there to be tons of drama, but there wasn't.
Yeah, Riley just kind of comes over again, which was weird because he was there with Buffy at the start of the scene and then kind of disappeared until now.
He tries to comfort Buffy, who rebuffs him and says she's going to talk to Giles for a healing spell.
And he immediately tries to dismiss that idea, saying that people get sick and magic won't help, which made no sense. We've seen that they have spells that alter all of reality, and they already go the magic route for literally everything else. This is a case where it actually would make sense to try that. And Buffy tells Riley to take Dawn to school, but not tell her about Joyce.
At the magic shop, Anya is reading through receipts and freaks out that Giles sold a dangerous combination of stuff, and they make the connection that the woman from before was Glory.
Again, on very little information. At a park.
With a carousel in the middle of it.
Yeah, and I thought Riley was supposed to be taking Dawn to school.
Yeah, so he's not reliable. And this town truly has everything in it. There was that point where the doctor asked Buffy if her house was near power lines or a waste disposal facility and a bunch of other stuff. And Buffy said she didn't know. But the answer to all those things was most likely yes.
Dawn tells Riley that he's a better boyfriend for Buffy than Angel, because Buffy was always getting worked up over Angel and how he was a vampire and everything. And Riley is upset, because this is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Back at the magic shop, Buffy asks if there is a magic cure for Joyce, and Giles says there's nothing they can do. And Tara says they could just make things worse.
Which all sounded pretty made up.
Well, I believed Tara's part.
I think you're giving the writers too much credit.
Well, no, all the characters suck.
Anya let slip that Glory was there, which for some reason they didn't want Buffy to know, even though they should be doing everything they can to stop her. And Anya tells Buffy about an ancient cult that used the same artifacts that Glory bought, and how they figured out she's going to transmogrify a cobra. And Buffy says she's leaving to fight Glory, but she doesn't know where she is, and nobody asks where she's going, which was all really good writing.
Glory's at the zoo, and she punches through some glass to get a snake, and she and the demon start performing the spell when Buffy busts in and starts to punch Glory. But, like the gang told her before she left, Buffy is super ineffective, and it does not work.
And I wondered, if she had just been smart and asked Riley for a gun or a grenade, would that have solved the whole plot line? The ritual is completed, and the snake is transformed into a giant CGI snake with a humanoid upper body.
Yet another giant CGI snake. You forgot that part. This is probably, the fourth one so far?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the one in that episode that I can't remember what it was called.
There was the mayor. There was the one who ate the babies.
Oh, I forgot about that one too.
There was the one in the frat house.
Yeah.
And now there's this one.
At least the practical one I thought was pretty cool, especially the way the eyes close.
Yeah, you could tell they spent most of the budget on the eyes and the mouth.
Yeah, although snakes don't have eyelids. This is a magic snake, so I don't know.
And for the CGI shots, I had to make sure that my PlayStation 2 hadn't accidentally turned on.
Buffy runs off while Glory tells the snake to use its ability to see the unseen to find the key.
Riley comes to the magic shop,
where Giles is talking to yet another unspeaking customer.
And he chastises the rest of them for letting Buffy go after Glory, before Xander reminds him that he is useless.
And that he went after the vampires in the crypt alone himself. And Riley realizes how stupid he was being. Maybe, it's hard to tell because he doesn't really emote. And then we get a random shot of the snake monster investigating a church. I wasn't really sure what that was about.
I figured he was tracing their steps, but were they at a church before?
Yeah, that's the part that I was confused about. I didn't know if they were supposed to be like Dawn was baptized there or something, but if she was magic, then that wouldn't have been the case anyway. I don't know.
Yeah. Then we get a sad montage of everyone struggling with their internal conflicts, and Buffy, Dawn, and Joyce's all made sense. But of course, we throw Riley in there too.
We see him drinking it.
Hang on.
Okay.
I mean, she's got a brain tumor, and he's like, oh, my girlfriend won't talk to me. Those are not the same.
Yeah, that's true. He's drinking at Willie's bar, where another hot girl walks over, but this time he doesn't immediately turn her away, but instead lets her go vampire and bite him. And in the middle of it, he stakes her, discovering a new fetish.
But not in that way, the other way, with a piece of wood. Maybe he staked her with both at the same time. Who knows?
And the snake slithers its way across the park from earlier.
At the magic shop, everyone is all gathered together before the PS2 snake boss busts in for Dawn.
It knocks a shelf onto Buffy, causing her to do a Bruce Campbell impression. The snake approaches Dawn, but when she starts screaming, it quickly leaves, which was understandable. I had to mute my TV. Buffy runs out after it, but her fake movie running proves to be too slow, so Giles pulls up in the Giles-mobile and drives her after it.
Meanwhile, Glory is upset that the snake monster is taking so long, And during the chase, Buffy manages to tackle the snake monster, and we get a truly horrific shot of her on top of it.
The best CGI battle since Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Man, people thought that kind of stuff was the epitome of computer capabilities. And I can't imagine the looks on their faces if someone from the future had popped in and said, hey, check out this movie Alone in the Dark. It gets even better. And Buffy manages to kill the snake monster in an homage to Jabba the Hutt, tail shot and all.
But when she drops the chain, it turns out it was faking and knocks her off, so she ends up punching it to death, which was either cool or not cool, I wasn't sure.
And then she goes to see Joyce, who wants to talk to Dawn.
And we see that Buffy is still jealous of their relationship, maybe? I don't know.
And then Riley shows up with one of his trademark high collars, but this time it's to hide the bite marks.
He tells Buffy she looks like shit, but she says she can't start crying now because they need her. And when Joyce calls her and she goes back in, Riley is left out in the hall by himself.
With nothing to support him except that collar.
Shadow, overall?
Joyce having a brain tumor was pretty dark, and the fact that they didn't immediately solve the problem this episode was good. Well, not good for her, but good for the show. Can't believe we're sitting here laughing about a brain tumor. I did not believe for a second that there was nothing magic that could be done for her condition. Giles saying the mystical and the medical can't be mixed was complete bullshit. We've seen them do things with magic from the most mundane to world-ending. To say there's nothing in between is asinine. And one of the things they sold to Glory was a transmogrifying this or that. Just use something like that. It doesn't have to be medical. Change the tumor into something harmless that will be filtered out of Joyce's body. Cast a spell that just removes it or sends it to another dimension. It doesn't have to be a healing spell. It just has to be something that solves the problem. And all of these magic objects that the whole town is apparently buying, they all work. Why isn't the whole town constantly being affected by spells and curses and people doing crazy shit? It seems really irresponsible of Giles to not only know what all this stuff can do, but to willingly hand it out to the general populace. And I had this thought before Anya revealed the combination of Glory's purchases, and that it was bad. So it didn't really help the show's logic that one of the characters pointed out how dumb it was. It was fun watching everyone tell Riley that he is completely useless because we've been saying that for way longer. It's way past time that he left the show. I feel like we might be getting close. And now having him be super reckless, letting himself get bitten by vampires is what, trying to make him somewhat interesting? Because it's not working. I'm glad the snake monster was mostly practical, at least until that huge chase scene. Can we just stop with the giant CGI snake monsters? Like, what is the fetish among somebody on the writing staff? And it could just be because Glory is selfish, but telling the snake monster to go find Dawn, but then immediately leave and come back and tell her where Dawn is was not a good plan. It had a clear opportunity to kill Dawn, and after it ran away, they don't know how far away Glory is. Could they have just picked Dawn up and taken her somewhere else, and then the snake would have to go find her again and then go back to Glory again?
Or they could have traced the snake back to Glory.
Why couldn't Glory just go with the snake, and then they would be there at the same time?
And if she only wanted it to find out where Dawn was, I would think she would use something that wasn't super conspicuous, like a giant snake monster.
Right. So I'm glad we have another instance where the main villain of the season is really not that smart. Maybe she and Adam should team up. Glory 2.0.
Don't even suggest it.
Overall, I thought for the Joyce stuff, this episode held weight, and I'm glad we addressed both that and the Glory stuff. The only part that brought this down was Riley moping the whole time. But I did enjoy this episode. I gave it a B+.
Dang.
I know.
That has to be the highest this season so far, right? Oh wait, maybe the one with Harmony earlier on, I think was a B+ from both of us, I think.
It wasn't as high as Riley's collar, but it's still pretty high, yes.
Okay. I was thinking about a B-, but I ended up going with a C+. The focus of the episode seemed like it wanted to be Joyce's situation, but they just had to throw in that lame Riley stuff, and then also lots of lame humor with the rest of the gang, just so they had something to do. I did think the handling of Joyce's situation was surprisingly decent, at least. If that had been the entire episode, I think it could have been pretty good. But Riley is feeling more and more useless as a character all the time. It really feels like they're desperate to find something for him to do. And does he have no other friends now that the initiative is supposedly gone, even though they're not gone?
You know, he would say something dumb like, I can't afford the luxury of friends.
I mean, what is he doing with his life besides hanging out with Buffy? It seems like nothing.
Tossing grenades into random structures.
And clearly the Buffy side of that relationship, that whole relationship is not working out. So he's got to go find something else, preferably something not in the show. It feels like he's becoming the new Buffy of the show, where he's moping all the time. But at least his reason for moping makes more sense than hers usually did. Buffy is clearly too busy to deal with his crap. Or maybe she's as bored of him as I am.
Does he ever show up in Angel?
I don't think so.
Good.
The previous episode teased some new developments between Spike and Buffy, but he only showed up in one scene here, and it was kind of dumb. Plus, we don't even know if he was telling Riley the truth about going out with Buffy for drinks or whatever. So I went from being kind of intrigued at the end of the last episode, back to being mostly annoyed by that subplot. The gang knows what Glory looks like, and we at least know her name, maybe, so that's something, I guess. And the practical snake was pretty cool, but of course they had to stick in all that CGI. But nothing has actually changed on the Glory end. And what little information we got about her background hasn't changed anything from the viewing perspective either. We still don't know what she wants to do or why or anything. The worst part of the episode, besides Riley, was the lame humor. This episode in particular felt like it was trying way too hard. Even Giles felt like he was being dragged down by the rest of the gang.
Maybe the writers felt that since they were dealing with such a serious subject with Joyce that they had to counterbalance, but they just went way too hard.
For me, this was yet another middle-of-the-road episode for this season. I don't hate the season so far as much as some earlier ones, but in a way it's more disappointing because at least those had an especially good episode every once in a while. So here's hoping we get one soon.